Now, another one of the many uses for Photoshop is something called retouching, and that's being able to remove little unsightly blemishes on your photos or just any type of elements you want to remove. And there are a number of tools that let you do that. And I'm just going to go here, I'm going to zoom in on this image. I'm just going to double click my zoom tool and get really close in on our face here. And I just want to remove some of these little tiny blemishes on our face. And I'm just going to use my retouching tools. If you go in the toolbar and click on this tool right above the brush tool, you've got a number of different healing brushes here and a number of different tools as well. Well, one of the most obvious ones being right here is the red eye tool. If red eye is a common problem in your photos, you'd simply just select that and then click directly inside your photo into the eye, and it would go ahead and take care of that. But some of the more common features are these healing brushes. Well, the first one here is the spot healing brush. And this is a really, really cool tool in that if you just take your brush, and I'm going to increase the size a little bit, and I'm going to make it a little bit softer. You just go over any blemish that you want to and just simply paint over it, and you can see it magically disappears. How cool is that? You just go over these little tiny blemished areas, and you can clean up the photo really quickly and easily. Just like that. And what it's doing is that it's basically the area you're painting, it's looking around the surrounding area and taking that common area and kind of blending it in. Just giving you a quick little fix there. So that's great for fixing tiny little areas. Now the other tool, of course, is the healing brush itself. And what this allows you to do is the very same thing, but allows you to sample part of your image that you want to make the correction for. So if I wanted to remove a blemish, I could simply hold down the Option or Alt key and sample this part. I'm just going to click in this area here, and you'll notice if I drag in this area, it's got the sampled area attached to my brush. So now when I go in here and click on this small blemish and just paint it, you'll notice the little crosshair where I had originally sampled is sampling that area and applying it down here, making that correction. So I wanted to take care of this line right here, to simply click right here, and I'm just going to drag along that line. You'll see that it's easily removing that little area there. Very, very cool feature there. Very cool way of removing blemishes. So, I mean, they both basically do the same thing. One gives you a little bit more flexibility over the other. The other one here being the patch tool. Now, I like this tool a lot in that it does very similar things that the healing brush does, but it does it in a very interesting way. What it does is you basically draw a selection, pretty much like you were drawing a selection with the lasso tool. So what I'll do is I'll just take this tool and just draw around this area, just like this. And now I've got that active selection area. If I go inside here and I just click and drag to an area that I know has no blemishes, what it's going to do is basically sample that area and apply it to the area I've selected. So when I release my mouse, you'll notice what happens. Now it's nice and clean area, making that adjustment very, very easy. Let's do the same thing over here. I'm going to drag and select around this area here. And it really doesn't, you don't have to be precise in your selecting of an area. If I just drag this up in here, I know this isn't entirely the same type of tonal range, but it's not going to look at that. It's mostly going to look at the texture and modify it that way, and kind of leaving the tones alone. If I release, you'll notice that it gives me a pretty smooth transition there. And I can do it on just very small blemishes on her face as well. I can just drag this over here, and it samples that area, making that correction real easy. So I like to use the patch tool for very broad areas, and you can use the spot tools for very specific areas, like this area here under her eye. It seems a little shiny and rough, so if I selected that area with my patch tool and just dragged it down here, you'll notice that it smooths it out considerably, giving me a much better result there. Very, very cool stuff. So that is the basics of those healing tools and the patch tool and everything like that. Now in the next lesson, I want to talk about a tool that's been in Photoshop for quite some time, and that's this tool right here, the Clone Stamp tool. And this gives you the ability to not only make subtle changes, but it gives you the ability to remove or even add unwanted or wanted elements into your photos. So let's have a look at that.